Hi everyone. So in this video, I'll try to explain the meaning of vector indexes in vector search and also briefly cover some of the popular vector indexes which are used in real world systems. So before discussing anything, I would like to briefly talk about the vector search itself. So here what I have done is I've created this short mind map of various key things that I'm going to be discussing. So first of all, what is vector search? Briefly, it involves finding k vectors from a large set of n vectors which are closest to a query vector, and we can call this query vector as q. Okay, so essentially we want to find k such vectors which are closest to q among n. Okay, so n might be a very large set of n vectors, maybe 100k, 100 million or 10 million, anything that you can think about. Now here closeness can be defined as either distance or similarity metric. Now distance, when we think about distance, we usually think about the Euclidean distance, and then similarity we think about as a cosine similarity. The difference between them is that when we look at distance, we are looking at those vectors which have least distance, and when we look at similarity matrix, we are talking about high similarity, right? So this is the only difference between these two. Okay, so now let's come to vector index. So first of all, what is vector index? So vector index is basically a type of data structure, okay, that makes vector search fast and efficient. Okay, so it makes vector search process fast. Now the question is, why do we need it? Why can't I just live without having a vector search index? Because the primary reason is that the brute force search is really difficult to conduct, because usually what happens is you might be thinking about deploying this vector search solution to user front-end applications, and if they are very delayed, their responses are delayed, users might be frustrated and their experience might not be very good. So the reason we need such type of data structures is because brute force search does not scale well. Okay, brute force might work with less than 1 million high dimensional vectors, but it would hit a bottleneck in searching, say for example, multiple millions to billions of vectors. So I prepared a short demo in the form of Colab notebook, where I am trying to display this brute force search and the time it takes to kind of conduct this brute force. Okay, so I'll just start by importing these NumPy time and pyplot library, and I've created this brute force search. It takes vectors, it takes query, and it takes number of results to be returned. Okay, it can be 1, it can be 5, or whatever your use case is. Okay, so what we do is we use NumPy's norm, which is essentially a function for calculating Euclidean distance, and it basically returns the so it sorts the distance and it returns the first k number of results. Now I have set it to dimension 1025, but I'll start by 100 dimensions. So I'm assuming that my vectors are of 100 dimension, and when we say dimension, we are talking about the length of my vector. Okay, modern embedding models return vectors of shape at least 300 to 400, but there can be more, because let's say if I talk about OpenAI's embedding API, they return the vectors of size 1500 as well. So let's start by 100 first, and then sizes means how many vectors I'm talking about, because there are many organizations. Personally, I have worked with organizations which their use case is not very complicated. They might be only dealing with 100k vectors. In those situations, brute force is the best solution. They don't need to go for sophisticated algorithms and indexes. Okay, so now dimension is the dimension of each vector, sizes is number of vectors. Now I'm generating a random query and I'm generating a random set of vectors. Here I'm generating n. So basically I'm looping through these sizes, and I'm capturing my start time, end time. Brute force search I'm conducting between start and end time, and I'm printing the time, and then finally I'm plotting the time. So let's do it with 100 dimension, and let's see what do we get. You see, yeah, so data set of size. So if I am having 10k vectors of size 100, my search would take 0.02 seconds, which is about some millisecond. Okay, I've got 50,000, then this, and if I have got 500k vectors, then my search time would start to increase. Now, although it's still in less than 1 second, it's not that big of a issue. But let's increase the dimension a little bit. Let's increase the dimension as 200. Now you will start to see some delay. You see this? Last one is still processing. So last one took about close to 1 second. Now let's again increase it to 300 this time. Let's print these results, and you will see there is a considerable delay in search time. So for 500k vectors, we are seeing search results take up to 1.5 seconds. And 500k might be a very less amount of vectors. And you see my RAM is also starting to shoot up. Okay, and if I increase it a little bit more, my RAM might even crash. Okay, so let's try to do it with 500 dimension. Okay, let's see. First one took, okay, third one 0.3, fourth one about 1 second, and last one is probably going to shoot up my RAM. So it took 2 seconds. But you see the issue, right? The issue is that if I have to scale to more than 500k vectors, I would have to think about some of the potential strategies other than this brute force approach, which basically takes my query vector and compares it with all the vectors that I have got. Okay. Now, this issue, the RAM issue, is altogether a different issue. I'm not concerned about RAM issue right now, and I have written a note here. Space consideration is yet another topic which basically involves separate theoretical concepts such as quantization. But I'm not concerned about the space issue in this video. I'm talking about this time issue. And if you have taken an introductory algorithm analysis class, then in any algorithm analysis we are talking about two things: time and space analysis. I'm not talking about space analysis. I'm talking about time. What kind of experience my user is going to get if I have this kind of brute force approach? So they will definitely be having a very bad experience if the amount of time it takes to render the results is high. And if I run this, we can clearly see it increases a lot. Now, and let me also show you one example where it just crashes the RAM, although RAM crashing is not something that I should be concerned about in this video. But if I take this dimension to 124, it most probably is going to crash my RAM. It will render some results. Okay, it has rendered up to 100k. It will probably even render 200k. But now in the 500k example, it will just crash my RAM. Why? Because the size to hold the vectors, the 500k vectors of dimension 124k, and if you manually calculate it, you can see it increases what my Colab resources allow. Colab gives me a 12 gigabyte of RAM, and the size to hold 500k vectors of size 1000, and if you manually calculate it, because each entry in this vector is coming from a float 32 based entry, and these take 4 bytes. Okay, 4 bytes, and if it takes 4 bytes each entry, it means a vector will take about 4.1 kilobyte. Okay, now 4.1 kilobyte, and if I multiply it with 500k vectors times 4.1 kilobyte, it would be about, I guess, some GBs. Okay, some GBs, I guess 5 GB, but there are other things that RAM is allotted for. That's why but I think I see 1 second, let me calculate it. What's going on? 100, and if I calculate the size for 100k kbs, it would be 100 megabytes. Okay, and if I get it for 500k kbs, it would be 500 megabyte, and if I get it for 4.1 times 500 megabyte, it would be 2 GB. It does not make sense. I see now why the reason it was crashing is because, so it would be 2.1 GB, because I'm loading these vectors again and again, and there are I'm not just loading these vectors. These are in RAM, but these previous vectors which I've created in the previous iterations, they are also still in RAM. But never mind. So let's now come back to this slide. So essentially, you see why the brute force approach fails, and how do we solve it? So the answer is vector index. So vector index is essentially a data structure. Okay, we have already explained this, right? So vector search is essentially a data structure that makes search faster. Okay, now we have got variety of different data structures available through libraries such as Facebook AI search. You must have heard of this library called FAISS, FAISS. This library offers you several different index types such as IVF, LSH, HNSW. I have highlighted this HNSW index because this is the index which is by far the most popular one. But if you try to look at it, if you try to look at this particular paragraph, all of them are essentially a way to make searching faster. They don't necessarily solve the storage problem, that is the RAM problem. Okay, they don't solve that, but what they do is they build these structures, these data structures, which makes searching faster, which does not require you to look at all the vectors in your database to come up with the nearest neighbors. And this problem is also vector search problem, can also be, let me write it down. So you can call this, so we have something known as KNN versus ANN. So KNN is when we do brute force search, that is k nearest neighbor. We search for the most accurate set of k vectors which are closest, and then we have got ANN. ANN means approximate nearest neighbor, because these structures such as IVF, LSH and HNSW, they allow you to search faster, but they do come at a cost, but the cost is usually very low, and cost is in terms of accuracy. You do see some drop in accuracy because you won't be getting accurate results, 100% accurate result, but still, if you have got say billions of vectors and if you build these structures, you are most likely to get good quality results. So briefly we talk about these index types. So IVF is based on clustering. So what they do is you give it your millions of vectors, and they build centroids, cluster centroids around those vectors, and rather than searching with all the input vectors, all the vectors in your database, it will only search at those centroids. So essentially the search space is getting shrinked in the inverted file index. Then we have got locality sensitive hashing, and the key idea is that hashing function. So they have this idea of hashing function. Using this hashing function, what they do is they put your vectors into buckets, and when searching, it utilizes those buckets, and it's kind of very similar to clustering, but the process of obtaining those buckets or clusters are going to be differed. Then HNSW is in itself is a very complicated algorithm, which we can cover in some later videos. But the main idea is that there are hierarchy of network layers that it creates to make the search faster, and it's really fast. And it's fast. You can look at its merits when you are dealing with millions and billions of vectors. But if you are dealing with, let's say, 100k vectors, it would not make sense, in my opinion, to go for these vectors. And again, in the last point, I'm just reiterating that point, that HNSW is the gold standard in almost all the production vector databases systems. So you might have heard Quadrant, for example, Pinecone, okay, and then there is this ChromaDB. All these databases are using primarily, but some of them do offer you a way to change the underlying index type. For example, Milvus is the vector database which is built on top of which is built on top of FAISS. FAISS is a library offered by Facebook, open source library. Now here is a opinionated advice, and the advice is that you might not even require HNSW, because I've personally worked with some companies which are building RAG based systems on maybe Jira issues. Now their total number of Jira issues does not exceed 1000. Are you getting my point? Not even 1000 Jira issues are there, but they are thinking of using systems like Pinecone or ChromaDB. It's okay. You can use those systems and you will get results. But in my opinion, with such a small scale problem, you can just spin up a server on a 8 GB or even 4 GB RAM and do these calculations on the fly when the things come. But again, it's their choice, but I feel they might not even require it. The true power of HNSW, and this is my personal opinion, although I might be missing some points, but I feel HNSW is only useful for large scale systems where number of data, and if you are let's say I feel maybe 100k. If you are dealing with greater than 100k vectors, then you can probably go for HNSW, but less than that, you should not consider that. Okay. All right, so I think that would be it for this particular discussion. So just to wrap up, in this short discussion, we have talked about what is vector search, what is vector index, and some of the popular vector search indexes which are there, which we can potentially use. Okay, so that would be it. Please let me know if you want me to make a video on HNSW, because I want to do it, but I feel I would probably need to understand if you guys are interested in that. Okay, so yeah, so that would be it for this discussion, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.